Hi, I'm Alex, this is Pucksandpaperbacks, and welcome back to my series Trope Taste Test. This is my series where I test different romance tropes to see if I like them. I know what I already like: fake dating, enemies to lovers, and a good rivals to lovers, but I've never explored outside of that. So throughout this series, I have picked different romance tropes that I've wanted to try. I read 3 books and determine if I like the trope or not. Back in February, I tested second chance romances. You can watch that video up above. Today I am tackling marriage of convenience. That's why I'm all dressed up. I have 3 books that I'm going to read to decide if I like this trope or not. From my understanding, I've only read 1 book with the marriage of convenience trope, which was The Princess Trap by Talia Hibbert, and I did enjoy that one. I want to explore it more to see if I fully enjoy this and can say it is a new favorite romance trope. Before I share the books I'll be reading, what is a marriage convenience? Let's find out. Book Riot defines it as any marriage that occurs for reasons other than love or affection. There are many political, economical, or social reasons that can motivate a marriage of convenience. The main thing to remember is that this type of marriage is inspired by practical reasons and not romance. Historical marriages of convenience often feature a hero who needs to marry in order to have an heir or to receive his inheritance, and a heroine who needs to marry to save her reputation, help her family escape a less desirable marriage, or gain independence. Some people include arranged marriage romances under the umbrella, but I think this trope is really about lovers making the arrangement themselves. I'll be reading the Fiancée Farce by Alexandra Bellafleur. This is a steamy sapphic rom-com about a shy bookseller who meets a romance book cover model, and they agree to a marriage of convenience. Then I have Xeni by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This is her self-published work. Xeni Everly Wilkins has 10 days to clean out her recently departed aunt's massive colonial in upstate New York. With the feud between her mom and her sister still raging even in death, she knows this will be no easy task, but when the will is read, Xeni quickly discovers the decades-old drama between the former R&B singers is just the tip of the iceberg. The secrets, lies, and a crap ton of cash spilled on her lawyer's conference room table all come with terms and conditions. Xeni must marry before she can claim the estate that will set her up for life, and her aunt has just the groom in mind, the ruggedly handsome and deliciously thick Scotsman who showed up at her aunt's memorial, bagpipes at the ready. When his dear friend and mentor Sable Everly passes away, Mason McInroy knew she would leave a sizable hole in his heart. He never imagined she'd leave him more than enough money to settle the debt that's keeping him from returning home to Scotland. He also never imagined that Sable would use her dying breaths to play matchmaker, trapping Mason and her beautiful niece in a marriage scheme that comes with more complications than either of them need. With no choice but to say I do, the unlikely pair tried to make the best of a messy situation. They had no plans to actually fall in love. This is a standalone romance that can be read along with another book that she has. It features a woman sick to death of her family's shit and a plus-size Scotsman who just wants to make sweet, sweet music and love. This sounds so good. And last, I'll be reading a new release, The Broposal by Sonora Reyes. I love this author. It's about time roommates Alejandro and Kenny get married, or at least that's what their close friends and family think when they announce their engagement. The kicker, the two are faking their whole relationship so Alejandro can get a green card. But if Han was going to marry anyone, it would be his ride or die since 2nd grade. I've heard great things about this one as well, and cannot wait to read these. I feel like this trope is going to be a win. Hi, I'm currently on sprints. I am about 58% into the Fiancée Farce by Alexandria Bellafleur, and I wanted to update you. I am having so much fun with this. We follow Tansy and Gemma. Tansy works at her family's bookstore, and Gemma is a romance book cover model whose family runs the Van Dalen's publishing company. Tansy has been ridiculed about not having a partner, therefore she makes up a woman named Gemma, only to run into her. When they run into each other, they put up an act that they're together, and that ensues marriage of convenience. They meet each other and learn that Gemma's family needs her to marry someone to inherit the family business, but they don't want her to, so she's taking matters into her own hands since her grandfather left the publishing company up to her. On the other hand, Tansy needs money to help keep her family bookstore afloat. So the two girls decide to pretend that they are going to get married, and they have a whole scheme concocted. But now I'm into the part where the feelings are there, and they have declared that they are going to become girlfriends and try to continue this relationship. I am hooked. I am loving the audiobook. I love this storyline. As somebody who likes fake dating, I feel that Marriage of Convenience works for me. I'm going to be a little hesitant because of the marriage part. These girls are in their late 20s, I believe, so they are mature enough to be getting married. We also have some anxiety rep, which I didn't realize was going to happen. Tansy mentions that she takes anxiety medication, therefore she doesn't drink. And I've been talking about this lately, about how I love queer books normalizing not drinking. It is really great and I'm here for it. I'm very interested to see how Marriage of Convenience goes for me, because I can be convinced, but can the author convince me enough that these two need to be together? That is my one critique about romance sometimes, is should these two be together? When you're reading a romance, you want to root for the couple, and with Marriage of Convenience, they are both getting something out of this, but it's also marriage. However, this is a realistic thing that a lot of people do. That is something I will touch on more when I get to reading the Broposal, but a lot of people have in real life marriages of convenience. So I hope that Alexandra Bellefleur can convince me that Tansy and Gemma should be a married couple. Last night I finished up the Fiancée farce. Let's talk about it. I really enjoyed this. We're following Gemma and Tansy, who both have family issues and work in the bookish space. Gemma is a book cover model for romance novels, and she has inherited her grandfather's publishing company through his will. But there is a caveat that she needs to marry and be married for at least 2 years to have sole ownership over the publishing company. Of course, this enrages her family members, and she is petty and wants to just have something for herself. She has never felt valued by her family. This talks so much about family drama and not feeling worthy of your family's love. This is also true for Tansy, as she has been stuck with her stepmother and that part of the family ever since her father passed away. She is on rocky terms with her stepmother and is trying to keep her family bookstore alive. Her stepmother wants to sell it, and Tansy doesn't want that to happen. So, because this is a marriage of convenience, Gemma needs somebody to marry, and Tansy needs somebody to help her keep this store open. Gemma proposes if Tansy marries her, she will give her $6 million to keep the store open and help her add an edition where they sell used books. Tansy is hesitant at first, but they both end up coming around and say that they're getting married. This doesn't go over very well with their families because they see through their lies, but their front is believable enough that they're able to go through with it. This was messy, chaotic, and funny at times. I felt myself cracking up while I was listening to the audiobook. There are so many good one-liners by side characters or from the girls themselves. themselves. The writing was really well done, the characters were fun, I didn't feel like anything was too underdeveloped, and I had a really good time with this. The audiobook was narrated by Lauren Sweet. I thought she did a fantastic job differentiating each voice. We have so many characters here, but each character had a different voice. She also did a great job with the British accents, as we have some side characters who are British. They were some of Gemma's relatives. It was 12 hours and 38 minutes. This was a chunky one, but I didn't feel like it was too long. Usually when I read books that are too long for my liking, I feel like there's certain parts that shouldn't be there, but because this was a slow burn romance, the length made a lot of sense. This was such a fun romance. The steamy scenes were written well. I didn't feel like they were too repetitive, nor was I getting bored at any point. Sometimes when I'm reading romances with explicit scenes, they feel oversaturated, but I didn't have that problem here. For representation, we have bisexuality and anxiety. One of the characters takes anxiety meds and talks about how she cannot drink due to the instructions on her medication. I love seeing more queer adult romances with anxiety rep and talking about being medicated. I have generalized and social anxiety, so I always love seeing anxiety rep in books, especially here in a queer romance. I thought the anxiety rep was well done. There's a panic attack on page, we have some anxious thoughts, and that is pretty much the extent of anxiety mentions. And last, I'm going to comment a little bit about the epilogue. I adored the epilogue. I liked seeing where Gemma and Tansy are after the ending of the book. I really enjoyed the end. I thought the end was really fun, and I was laughing out loud at so many of the quips and remarks that were happening. I thought this was such a funny book. But the epilogue made me crave more of these characters. I want either a novella or at least a cameo in another book to see where these characters are in present day. That is one book down for the marriage of convenience trope and one win so far. I think I'm going to enjoy this trope, mainly because I really like how slow burn the romance is. We start out with two characters who are in this relationship for a reason, and that reason is nothing to do with romantic feelings, and they have to get to know each other, and that is how their feelings develop. I was worried that this trope could be too insta-lovey, but I'm not having that problem, and I hope that I don't encounter it in any of the books in this video, because I'm really enjoying actually seeing the characters develop into a relationship. The point where they're like, no, I actually love this person, is really fun. I thought that I would have trouble believing this trope because it could be insta-love territory, they fall too hard for each other, and it feels unrealistic. Obviously, this is a romance novel, so I can't really be too critical in the sense that I need to suspend my disbelief. Marriage of convenience is a thing. Arranged marriages are a thing. So it's not unbelievable in that sense, but I think it is so beautiful to see two characters who don't like each other. They just don't have any romantic feelings for each other, and we really get to see it progress over time. That's what I really enjoyed about the Fiancée farce. So it's safe to say I'm enjoying this trope so far. I hope that this continues. Let's go on to the next book. I'm getting ready for bed, but I just hit 50% in Xeni and figured that I would update you. I am really impressed by this book. I'm flying through it and loving it. I wish I had more time with it. My schedule at the moment hasn't let me properly sit down and binge this book, or else I probably would have read it in one sitting. We have Xeni and Mason. Xeni's aunt Sable passes away, and she is left her estate. There's 2 estates, 2 cars, and a shit ton of money that she is given. The only condition is she must be married to Mason for at least 30 days. Mason is also getting a cut of the money. This is going to help him pay back his student loans, and he also owes his father some money due to some things that have happened in the past. There's just so much mess here, but I'm really enjoying the relationship and romance. It's very flirty, and it can be insta-lovey because they start to develop feelings for each other very quickly, but they're still on the term that they're married, and that is all. When it comes to their love life, they see each other with different people. Of course, that's probably going to change at the end of the book. I don't use Goodreads anymore, but I had to go over to Goodreads to see what the reviews were since this book was a 2019 release. But all of my friends on Goodreads who I trust with romance recs and just romance reviews in general loved this book. I feel like I was sleeping on it. I'm loving it so much. It is the type of book that I am consumed in whenever I pick it up, so I'm really enjoying it. I'm so happy. I love some family drama. Another plus is these characters are both bisexual, so we do talk about some biphobia and bisexuality in general. It's so nice to see bisexual characters thriving. Those are some of my initial thoughts on Xeni. This is under 300 pages. My Kindle says I have 217 pages, so I can fly through this. I'll probably finish it tomorrow. That is my goal, and I will see you then. Last night I finished Xeni. Let's talk. I really enjoyed this. It's fast-paced, it was steamy, and I would say for the most part the romance was believable. One thing that may sway readers is the insta-love. Both characters start to catch feelings for each other pretty early on. I'd say it was a love at first sight situation, but the romance was so fun and I enjoyed the characters and their chemistry enough that the insta-love didn't bother me. However, it might bother you if you're gonna pick it up. I've said this already, but I'll say it again. Marriage of Convenience is full of family drama, and that is no different here. We have Xeni, whose aunt Sable passes away, and she goes to New York from LA to pack up the house and get everything in order. While she's there, she learns some family secrets and that Sable left her a bunch of things in her will. This includes 2 houses, one in New York, one in Boston, 2 fancy cars, and a shit ton of money. This is news to Xeni. And the catch is she has to marry Mason, a Scotsman who she just met. Mason moved to town from Scotland to be with his brother Silas and make a new name for himself after some things have happened in his past. His part in the Marriage of Convenience helps him pay off his father, who he was in debt to. This was just so messy, but the chemistry was great. The banter between these 2 characters was awesome. Overall, I really enjoyed my time with this book, but I do have a couple complaints. I enjoyed the writing for the most part, but it was really hard to figure out what the tone was sometimes. There's no tone indicators after dialogue. The dialogue is just there. And then there is some context. Maybe the character laughs or they get up. So she's telling you what the characters are doing, but when we have the dialogue pieces, it doesn't tell me what the tone is, and that really confused me, especially because the punctuation doesn't help me in that case. That was the only thing I had a gripe with when it came to the writing. And for the ending, I thought it was too rushed. This book is 214 pages, and I felt like it could have been more fleshed out, especially towards the middle. Someone is mowing their lawn literally right here, of course. Then for the ending. I enjoyed the ending. I liked seeing where the characters left off. I personally would have loved to have more of these characters, but I felt like things could have been more fleshed out. Personally, it felt rushed. I just felt like they were constantly having sex and then talking to each other and having flirty banter, but it took a while for them to figure out what their relationship was, and that didn't happen until the very end of the book. Everything happens so quickly when we get to Act 3 that I wish things had been more fleshed out. But I really enjoyed the characters and this story in general. It was so much fun to read. It was a light in my week. I just kept wanting to read it. That is the best part of reading. Even though I had some minor issues with the book, I would still call it a win. So that is 2 wins for Marriage of Convenience. Now, on to the last book. Hi, yesterday I started the Broposal and I am now 50% in, so I want to give you a little rundown about the book and what I'm feeling. We follow childhood best friends and roommates, Han and Kenny. Han is an undocumented immigrant in the US, therefore he is on edge. He is so anxious about getting deported. So when he loses his job, Kenny offers him a job at the restaurant he works at. I'm loving the audiobook. It's narrated by Alejandro Antonio Ruiz and Andre Santana. I have read from Andre Santana before. He narrated As You Walk On By Julian Winters, and I really enjoyed that audiobook. So I was really happy to hear that he was going to be narrating this one as well. Especially since we have a dual POV, I love to hear both characters' voices. So since this is a marriage of convenience, the gist is Kenny is dating a girl named Jackie who is very abusive physically and emotionally. This has contributed to Kenny's low self-esteem. He feels like nobody would ever love him again and Jackie was the girl for him, but his parents aren't even on the same page. They do not think Jackie was good for him, neither does Han. But Han is respectful and he's there for his friend. I should also mention Han is autistic. Eventually, Kenny breaks things off with Jackie and he and Han have a plan to help him get a green card. This plan is they marry for 3 years to ensure that Han feels safe and can live here in America. I'll mention as well, this book is not nonfiction. It is not 100% accurate. The author mentions that at the beginning of the book. This is not supposed to be informative or factual. It's just supposed to be a silly romance about two people with immigration being a topic. But this is not about how to get a green card, how immigration works, and things like that. Overall, I am really enjoying this. I just love the chemistry between Han and Kenny. It's the fact that they are two people that don't realize they have feelings for each other. Kenny and Han just think they really love each other as friends, as best friends do. But the feelings are way deeper. I'm excited to see when they finally realize that they like each other and how the ending is going to go. This is what I've been most interested about when I've been reading Marriages of Convenience, because I want to know if this makes sense at the end. Do they feel like they could be in a partnership for 3 years? Kenny is bisexual, but Han sees himself as straight. But he is realizing that he has never had feelings for women, nor has he desired to be with a woman. So now that he is in his 20s, he's unpacking a lot of his sexuality and learning who he really is. That is one of my favorite tropes in queer books, so I'm excited to see how that further develops. But overall, I am just loving this book. I read it all yesterday and I got to 50% and I feel like I'm going to fly through the second half. I'm really enjoying my time with this book, so much so that when nightfall came and I had to go to bed, I was so tired, but a part of me just wanted to keep reading this book. I was so excited when I woke up this morning because I could keep reading. That is one of the best feelings. I'm gonna go on a walk and I will come back once I finish the book.
Give me your strength and show me your weakness. We're in this together now. We're in this together now. Give me your love and tell me your secrets.
I've officially finished The Broposal by Sonora Reyes, so let's chat. I adored this. I really enjoyed my time reading this. I thought the pacing was well done. I didn't think the romance was too unbelievable. I am a sucker for childhood friends to lovers, so it didn't bother me that we felt a little insta-lovey. I say this because you can tell at the beginning of the book that these two characters love each other. If you've ever had a childhood best friend, you know the feeling of loving that person in a platonic way. So when you start to catch romantic feelings for each other, that bond is so much stronger. I want to point out some trigger warnings because this book does talk about ICE, immigration, and deportation. Deportation does not happen in the book, but for our character Han, it is an anxiety of his as he is undocumented. Due to Han's circumstances, this marriage of convenience was believable. It's realistic as well. This is something that is reality for many people here in America. But when it came to the romance, it was so believable. I believe the audiobook is what had me head over heels for these characters and rooting for their romance. I adored both Kenny and Han in their different ways. They are messy. Kenny is dealing with a toxic relationship that he is trying to get out of, but he's constantly trapped. I just really enjoyed what this book did. I love Sonora Reyes. I love their characters, the writing, and the humor that was implemented into this book. I just had so much fun reading this. I don't have too many concise thoughts on why I loved this. I just enjoyed the reading experience and I loved the characters so much. After I take some time to reflect, I'm sure I will have more to say in my monthly wrap-up. So if you'd like to hear more of my concise thoughts, hit subscribe and turn on the bell notifications. Those are all of my thoughts on the proposal for now. That is another win in this video. So now it is time to wrap up and determine, did I like Marriage of Convenience? So did I enjoy Marriage of Convenience and would I read the trope again? Yes. I adored this trope. I had so much fun with it. I don't feel tired. I would love to read another Marriage of Convenience right after this. I really enjoyed my time exploring this trope. My reasoning is I loved seeing the progression of the romance. I'm somebody who likes slow burn romances, unless they're too slow. I felt Marriage of Convenience wasn't too slow. The build up is really nice, especially either getting to the wedding. Even when we get to the epilogue, we see how the romance has changed since the beginning of the book and even the middle of the book. Of course, I only read 3 books with this trope, so there could be a book out there I read with this trope that I don't enjoy, but for the most part, I am confident saying this is one of my new favorite tropes. I'm so happy because the last episode of Trope Taste Test, I was exhausted and I did not want to read that trope ever again, but I feel really confident and excited about Marriage of Convenience. So of course, if you have any BIPOC or queer recommendations with this trope, feel free to leave them down below. I'm so glad I decided to explore this trope because I had so much fun with it. For reading purposes, let's recap. I read The Fiancée Farce by Alexandria Bellafleur, which I really enjoyed. We had a bookish Marriage of Convenience. I adored this couple and want to know where they're at now. Then I read Xeni by Rebecca Weatherspoon. This one, I liked the reading experience, but I felt the end was too rushed. However, that didn't defer me from wanting to read the author's other works because I really enjoyed the characters and romance in this book, and the well-written steamy scenes were a plus. And last was The Broposal by Sonora Reyes, a childhood friends to lovers about exploring your sexuality, coming to terms with your sexuality, grief, and marrying your best friend. I loved how messy this book was, and the romance had me rooting for both characters until the very end. That is going to end this episode of Trope Taste Test. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed it, give it a like and leave a comment. It really helps me out when you do so. If you're new here, hi, I'm Alex. I'm a trans man who loves to uplift queer and trans books on my corner of the internet. If you like that and you want to watch more episodes of Trope Taste Test, I'll have a playlist down below, and while you're there, you can hit subscribe and turn on my post notifications so you don't miss a video. Thank you to my top patrons for their support this month and means the world to me. If you would like to support me, a small trans creator whose channel is not monetized, I appreciate any and all support over on Patreon. The link is down below. If you'd like to watch more, I'll link the past episode of Trope Taste Test here and you can subscribe there.